Hello to my beautiful women out there, or men if you're listening in to learn. That's great too. Today, we are going to talk about the roller coaster we call hormones. Some days we're nurturing and ready to take on the world, and other days you get to the store. Here's a simple example. And you see that somebody double parked, and you're like, seriously? Suddenly, it's just not about a parking spot. It's proof that the universe is conspiring against you. Okay, maybe that's a bit dramatic, but that's how it can feel sometimes, right? Or maybe it's as simple as who put the spoon in the wrong drawer again? And why am I so irritated about it? Sound familiar? That is the beauty and complexity of being a woman. And I love the word woman. When I think of it, I think of womb. And when I think of womb, I think of the ability to create. And we'll talk about that more down into the podcast. But, even for myself, I've had a hysterectomy, but my hormones surge because I have my ovaries, and that is what releases the majority of our hormones. So I still consider myself, even though I can't bear children or never have had kids, I have a womb as a woman. And what I think of that again is that ability to create. Men can create too, of course, but you'll see where I'm going with this. Getting back on track, our cycles affect everything: our mood, energy, relationships, and even how we connect with people we love most. So let's dive into how your menstrual cycle is your superpower, how to work with it instead of against it, and why understanding men's testosterone isn't just for them, it's for all of us. Because whether you're navigating life with a husband, a partner, sons, or even just the guys in your workplace, hormones are a game changer for relationships, love, and family. Welcome back to Off Limits. It's off limits. Still working on the jingle, ladies. Let me know what you think. Off Limits, the podcast where love, biology, and humor collide. I'm your host, Ellen Roars. You can call me Ella. And today we're tackling two big topics: how to embrace your cycle as a roadmap for success and connection, and how to support the men in your life so they can thrive too. Whether you're here to understand yourself better, help your sons or husband, or just learn something new, you are in the right place. Let's get into it. All right, embracing our cycle. It is truly our superpower. Let's get real about our menstrual cycle. It's not just something to deal with, it's a built in blueprint for understanding our body, our moods, and even our productivity. I don't know why I said it that way. I will say, ladies, and maybe if there's guys listening, I'm sorry, this might be TMI, but I am in my mensy phase right now. And how do I know? Since I don't bleed anymore, or I don't get the actual menstruation because my uterus is gone. Um, I still get the lovely acne even at 43. I'm like, what? Acne on my neck, my chin. I'm like, this is insane. I'm naturally a little oilier. I have to use a lot more dry shampoo, and the list goes on. But where I really notice it is more of the irritability, and also something that might happen on a normal day that wouldn't normally affect me. On this type of day, it affects me more. And I'll even say when I'm recording this podcast, I've had a few bloopers, and normally I would just kind of push through, but I'm getting irritable and then I'll stop it. So this is literally my fourth time recording. I'm going to just go with it. So whatever you hear, I'm just kind of putting that out there, right? Okay, so circling back, this blueprint that we have, understanding our body, our mood, and productivity. um, they are all ways to support our hormones to make every phase, or there are plenty of ways to make all of these phases work for us. So let's break it down. Really, the four phases of our cycle. Roughly, we can say anywhere from 28, some are all the way up to 30 plus days. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry if that's you. But most of the time, most of us ladies are 28 days. And in those 28 days, there's four phases. So that first being the menstrual phase, where we are actually having the menstruation or the period, you'll hear it as. And then the second phase is that follicular phase, roughly days 6 to 14, plus or minus a couple days, depending on you. The third is the ovulatory phase. Now, this is my favorite type. I mean, of course, I like the follicular phase towards the end of it. And that ovulation phase is my absolute best time, where I am top peak. And all of us are going to feel that way. And then the final phase is that luteal phase. And now, of course, you also hear that as the PMS phase or premenstrual, and that's where you might need a little more patience and kindness. So let's break them down, and we'll really focus on the ovulation phase because why I love that phase is one, it's when we're feeling a little more frisky and wanting a little more attention from our men in our lives. It's also the time where we're most creative and we have a lot more connection, even with girlfriends, people in general, right? We are in that mood to bond and we're feeling creative and just it's our golden window. So let me take it back to the menses phase and really say what's happening. So think of the simplest way for me to say is estrogen is our golden magic pill, I guess you could say, whereas testosterone is men. So us women thrive on estrogen. When it's low, we have low energy and we're in more fatigue, right? So we're also lacking the progesterone. So progesterone is dropping at its lowest point, and that's kind of where the moodiness or the feelings of sadness might come in. The oxytocin, even in us, there's minimal activity there, and that makes it harder to emotionally connect. Our testosterone is very low. So the other key point for us ladies is when you want to be intimate with a man, you want estrogen and a little bit of testosterone really creates that drive and motivation. So we do have it as well. But in that menstrual phase, roughly 1 to 5 days, I know some of you have longer days. I'm so sorry if that's you. You really want to give yourself rest and support and just be patient with yourself. If you're having cravings, lean into them. It's not going to kill you to have a little salt. Maybe you need some chips or chocolate. Whatever it is, allow yourself to kind of give into that a bit. It's okay. And this is the time too to say to your kids, to your husband, to your friends, you know what? I just need to go within a bit more. I need a bit more me time and just communicate that because I think it's really important. And they'll understand it as well. If you can just say, you know what? I'm in my menstrual phase right now. I just need a little more TLC, whether it's from your partners, your loved ones, or just you give that to yourself. So there we go. Phase one, the menses. All right, now as we get into day 6 plus, we're in the follicular phase. And this is where we're starting to have a little more energy, more engagement. The estrogen is rising steadily, leading to increased energy, optimism, and mental clarity. So I love this. I can absolutely feel when I'm in the follicular phase. Your progesterone is still a little bit low, and this is allowing your estrogen to really dominate and boost creativity and focus. So I will say when I'm in that follicular phase, I am getting more keen on creativity, absolutely able to be more productive with work, any project I'm working on. Your oxytocin is also up, gradually increasing. So you're going to have that desire to be more socially engaged, have more bonding, whether it's girlfriends. For me being single, those are the days that I want to go on a date. Those are the days I feel sexy. Those are the days that I just feel more kind of gregarious. And you'll also see during this follicular phase. So again, estrogen is rising, progesterone is still kind of low, oxytocin is going up, and your testosterone is peaking more towards the end of the phase. But that is where that libido is coming in, the libido and the confidence. So I find myself it's funny. I can see even if you're married, you're probably like, you know what, I'm going to shave my legs today. Go shave those legs, take a hot bubble bath. I know it's not probably quite that simple, but you're going to find that you're a bit more in the mood. This is the phase of growth and renewal. So women always usually feel their best during this time and are much more open to new ideas and experiences. So I guess I can't say that's everyone, but most women. All right, so now we're getting to the ovulation phase. Ovulatory phase is roughly 15 to 18. I know for me, this is what the books will tell you, but I'm actually about anywhere from 12 to 16 days is my peak for ovulation. And here you go. This is what's going to be happening. Even like I said, since I'm in almost premenopause and I don't have like I said, I have a hysterectomy, but I still get the surge of estrogen. So here in the ovulation phase, estrogen is peaking. You're more confident, you're magnetic, you're feeling more attractive, all those great things. This is when your Progesterone is still a little bit low, but it's beginning to rise towards the end of ovulation. And that's okay because the progesterone is kind of what brings on the PMS down the road. So again, it's really all about that estrogen. Oxytocin is high and your testosterone is peaking alongside the estrogen, which is really increasing that libido and the sexual desire. Um, what I want to say here, you're in your golden window for romance and social engagement. We are biologically primed for connection, and it's definitely our most vibrant and energetic phase. So, a couple things I want to say. I was really grateful to my mother at about 14 or 15, age 14, 15. I had the sex talk with her, and this was such a good talk because she explained, hey, honey, when you are in your ovulatory phase, just avoid your boyfriend. And I'm like, what? And this was kind of her way. Of course, we would talk about, how babies are created. I knew all of that stuff. And I wasn't necessarily having sex at that age, but she was keen on making sure that I wasn't. And so the way she would do that was, you know what, during your ovulation phase, you're going to be more naturally turned on. So if you're necking, I love how she would say necking. If you're necking or kissing, he's kissing you below the anywhere below the neck, it's going to be very hard for you to resist going all the way. So it's her way of saying, protect your kind of your how would you say it? The sexual desire, right? Because us women do have those desires as well. And especially as you're increasing your level of intimacy. So, and I'm saying this to the younger girls out there, if you're not on the pill or you're not aware of your cycle, it's really important to be aware because this is the prime time where you can get pregnant. And God made it this way, whether you believe in God or not. I just think this part is a magical aspect to our creator because women have this ability. How do I say it without being too graphic here? Let me just go to the straight up biology of it. So, your boobs are naturally more sensitive, right? So, if a man is touching those or kissing those, you're going to be more turned on. All your erogenous zones are more sensitive, but you're also able to become more wet. So, everything's more pleasurable down in that area. And the beautiful thing about that is it allows for intimacy to be even better because with the lubrication, the natural lubrication of your own hormones, your cervix will actually be a little bit firmer, so can be more pleasurable. You can orgasm easier. And the list goes on, but those are really the main things. So you'll even know if you're not on the pill, you'll start to see in your underwear that there'll be almost like a kind of a sticky clear um I don't want to say like a mucus membrane, but it's just a sticky clear. And that is what causes or allows for the sperm to live longer and be carried up to the uterus to be implanted. So what happens if there's no sperm to, which I unfortunately have not had sperm in my uh, area for a very long time. But let's say if there's no sperm that goes up to fertilize the egg will be gotten rid of, right? And that's when the menstruation happens. So, if I can just kind of reiterate what's going on, lots of hormones here during this time, and it's all to allow for the magic of a baby to be created if that's what you want. And if you don't want it, it's very important to be aware of what's going on so you can avoid it, whether you're using condoms, birth control, or natural family planning and abstinence. Um, and if you know what, you're not worried about that, you're married and you can just enjoy that beautiful intimacy during this time, you're going to find that you're going to love it. And it is your peak connection. So, and not just talking about sex, we can go again back to the ability to connect with friends, family. You naturally feel more willing to bond because you're just in this good vibration of hormones. It's like the good vibration. Who is that? Beach Boys, I want to say. All right. Enough about the ovulation phase. Can you tell it's my favorite? I could go on and on. There's so much that I love to this. So, last and final phase before you get back to menstruation is the luteal phase. So, roughly 9 to 28 days. And again, this is all plus or minus because we're all so different. But this is where we're needing some patience and kindness again. So, the estrogen begins to drop. leading to lower energy and potential mood swings. So here's where you'll hear somebody say, "Oh, I'm PMSing." PMSing just basically stands for the premenstrual phase. And I can say that some have a harder time during the luteal phase. The fourth phase is tougher for some women than the actual menses phase. Um, sometimes even that ovulation phase they can feel when the egg drops, and that can be painful for some. Sometimes this luteal phase, as the uterine is getting ready to shed, you can start to have some cramping and such as well. So again, you're going to know what your side effects are of your menses, but for me, the luteal phase wasn't as bad. I think it was the cramping menstruation phase for me that was the toughest. And my hemoglobin would go so low during that menses phase. So I really struggled day one through about 4 to 5 of my period back when I had it. Now I don't get my period, of course, but in my younger days, especially, oh, I could just almost lean over in horrible pain because my cramping was so bad and so strong. So yeah, you'll have to let me know, what you experience. But luteal phase, just be patient, be kind with yourself. This too is not the best time to have those conversations with your men or kids. You're starting to kind of need that time to really nest. And what's happening with progesterone, this is where progesterone peaks and it's in that mid phase. And that will promote a little bit of a calming and nesting instinct, but it can also lead to irritability if it's too high. So for me, yeah, if I did notice anything about the luteal phase, it was definitely that irritability. And my irritability would continue absolutely into the menses phase. Um, Especially because your iron is low, and that's where maybe you're even craving more meat or spinach if you're a vegan eater. For me, I love my meats, but I would definitely crave more red meats during that time. So you'll start to see those cravings kind of pop in at that fourth phase as well. Your oxytocin is declining. It's more towards the end of the phase. You'll see that go down. So kind of reducing that emotional openness. And then your testosterone drops again. So continuing to reduce the libido and the motivation. And not to say these are just kind of the commons for most women. It doesn't mean that you have to fully experience what I'm mentioning. It's just in general. So this phase, the luteal phase, is really marked by introspection and preparation for menstruation. So where that emotional sensitivity might be a bit heightened and self-care really becomes essential. This is where you want to start taking those baths or maybe get your good walks in, some vitamin D in the sun. You name it, you know what you love. For me, it's just as simple as a hot Epsom salt bubble bath. I love that. So let's kind of sum it up. Menstrual phase, roughly days 1 through 5 for most women. Hormones are at their lowest. You just might feel drained. You're more introspective. You're wanting to focus on your rest, reflection, and self care. 2, we're getting into the follicular phase, roughly days 6 to 14. Your estrogen is rising. We love our estrogen. This is when I'm starting to feel more creative, optimistic. You're more focused. This is really the time to brainstorm, set your goals, take action. If you want to have a really tough conversation with your kids or your spouse, for me, I should really be doing my podcast during the follicular phase or the ovulation phase. But yeah, follicular phase 6 through 14, roughly. And then the ovulatory phase, we know that estrogen's peaking, you're confident, magnetic, you're just feeling sexy and great. I mean, heck, in my ovulatory phase, I could even smell a guy walk by, whether he's cute or not, I will turn just because I'm feeling a little different. So yeah, these are when you want to plan your big events, lean into intimacy, go on a date, let yourself shine. It's really your time to thrive. So from the bedroom to the boardroom, really. And back to the final phase, the luteal phase, kind of towards the end, anywhere from, 20 to 28 days, that progesterone is rising. You're a bit more introspective and emotional. So slow down, focus on comfort, and set boundaries for your energy. And now I'm not saying, ladies, that, you can only be intimate during those ovulatory phases. There's going to be times that you do want to be intimate on other times. I know for me, I was very much that way in my PMS because it would help my cramping. And yeah, you're going to know your body best, but I'm just kind of giving you the main do's and don'ts, right? Not even do's and don'ts. I don't like to say that because there's nothing you can't do. But there's just times to embrace it. All right. So that is us. We sound complex, right? I think it is initially, but once you kind of document your cycle, there's so many apps out there to do that too. Clue is one of my favorites. There's a few others. If you are trying to get pregnant, you probably already have some of the ones that are charting your ovulation stage. And it is, again, it's just a magical. I just think us women are so fascinating. We are magical. I love that word. And so are men. So we're going to get into men now. So, how can women help men and build their testosterone? Because, like I said, estrogen is important for us women, testosterone is for the men. So, ladies, here's the thing just like our hormones impact us, testosterone has a huge effect on the men that we care about. So, when their testosterone is healthy, you'll see that they're confident, they're energetic, and they're engaged. That's when they're going to want to chase you around the bedroom. And you know what? Men have high surges of testosterone almost every 15 minutes. So let me tell you, they're probably always going to be wanting to um receive you may only want to receive them certain times of the month. They will want to penetrate you, head towards you, just about any time. But hopefully, with understanding each other's cycles, you can kind of help each other out. So when the men's testosterone dips, this is when you're going to see them feeling anxious, withdrawn, or even a little down. So, it's not quite as predictable as it is for the women. Um, but there's definitely times that you'll notice, okay, he needs a little support. And, the tricky part, here's the tricky part. Most men will not come out and say, hey, I think my testosterone's low. Whereas us women, we can sometimes say, oh, my estrogen is low and I am just in a funk. We're a lot better at knowing that and communicating it, where again, he might not necessarily know what it is. But we can absolutely, as women, pick up on the signs and gently help them course correct without ever using the word testosterone because you don't really want to say that to them. Oh, honey, I think your testosterone's low. You're a little moody. It just wouldn't go over, right? Or wouldn't go over very well, right? So this hormone, again, it's not just a guy thing. It really drives men's energy, confidence, and mood, as I said earlier. So it's also a key factor in our own physical strength, as I mentioned earlier. So we need a bit of testosterone to have our strength and libido. And I know for me being a single gal, it sounds funny, but I have a lot more testosterone than a lot of women that have men in their lives because the men will actually boost your estrogen in a good way when they're doing loving, nurturing things. Um, Women that are too much in their work zone tend to be high in testosterone. So I know I have a lot of really powerful, successful women too in my world. And I know when they're go, go, go with work, they can be a bit more irritable. So the testosterone for women isn't always a great thing. I mean, depending on what you're doing, it can be, but men thrive on it. Women, yes, it makes us a little more frisky. But if we're in too much testosterone, we need to do things to raise our estrogen, like take a hot bath, maybe go connect with a girlfriend, go hug your kids. One of the quickest way to boost estrogen for women is to go snuggle with your kids or your husband. And for men, we're going to dive into a few simple ways to really help them feel their best self again. So I'm going to talk high level and then we'll kind of even dive into it a little bit more. So a quick rundown of the top 6 testosterone boosters for men. I did cover this in my last episode, episode 14, which definitely can benefit women too. If you want to listen to that one, please do. It's more specific to men, but you might find that one interesting as well. So, top 6 boosters: train like an athlete. So, that physical activity for them and, strength training or HIIT workouts are great. But even just as good as getting outside, being in the fresh outdoors is huge to build testosterone. It's a natural booster for them. Rest and recovery, believe it or not, they need that quality sleep. It's essential for their hormonal balance, both men and women. So, women, if you've just had a new baby, and I know it's tough if you're breastfeeding, but um, allow the men to help you out if they can, so you can get some rest, and vice versa. Say they had a long night the night before, maybe you take the night to get up with the kids. just, I know it's tough when there's kids involved, but remember to get that rest and recovery as much as you can. Men especially need that. Um, they need to fuel their body with the whole foods that are rich in healthy fats, the lean proteins. Zinc is really important. That really helps to give them the right fuel. And then keeping stress at bay. Cortisol levels, like us women, can really cause the stress, and stress for men suppresses testosterone. So, especially like stress for us women can decrease our estrogen. So the other really key factor here, and this is one if you have little boys or any younger gentleman in your life, the dopamine spiking activities, and the biggest one that I'm thinking of is Nintendo, or I don't know why I say Nintendo. That was my day. Gaming. I think they call it gaming these days, right? So gaming is a huge dopamine spiking activity. So this is really important that they avoid excess gaming or other behaviors that stimulate the brain or overstimulate the brain. So it could be gambling. That would be a bad one. Pornography. Pornography really is what spikes dopamine quickly. It doesn't allow them to bond with a real woman and can be really destructive. Especially, I worry about some of the younger boys that have access to porn. It's not like the porn some of the guys that we grew up with in, the 80s and 90s. It really was just, what was it? The Playboy magazines was about it. Now kids have it at their fingertips. So they're becoming addicted to it. And it's just something to keep an eye on and to have a conversation with your boys about. If you find that your man or the men in your life, it's maybe a little tougher conversation, but when they tell you that these activities like gaming, gambling, whatever it may be, are healthy for them, it's not creating the right type of stimulant. Testosterone, getting out and working out, spending time with guys, golfing, whatever it may be, is going to be so much more beneficial for them. And then meditation or prayer is really a great thing. Men are really great at meditating, even more than us ladies, because we tend to have multiple thoughts surging. We're multitaskers. Men are typically the one thought wonders. And that sounds, not saying anything negative for them. I love our men. They're great, but they can meditate because they're much better at focusing on one thing, where us women, again, a mile a minute. So the reason meditation and prayer is so beneficial is it really reduces the cortisol and improves the mental clarity. And here's kind of an interesting fact. Men do find it a lot easier to meditate because of the focusing on the one thought. So a nice advantage that they have over us multitasking ladies. So what can you do to encourage, just to kind of help them? You're going to encourage the hobbies with friends, family. Sometimes the best thing you can do is give your guy a little nudge to go do something he loves. If he's been stressed or anxious, he's just kind of blah. It might be time to suggest a reconnect with his hobbies or friends. So instead of saying, "Hey, I think your testosterone was low, honey," that probably doesn't go well. Just say, "Honey, why don't you go call Joe and go hit the golf course?" Or, "You've been working so hard. Why not, plan a night with the guys, or go play hockey, to go play hockey or go ice fishing." Just kind of encourage them to get out. And men will thrive on these activities because they're fun, they're active, and they're social. And all of these boost testosterone naturally. Plus, it just gives them a mental reset, which is really, really important. And all that mental reset is really all they need sometimes. And then how can you support their physical health? Well, testosterone and physical health go hand in hand, as I mentioned earlier. So if you notice your guy isn't feeling his best, encourage him to stay active. If he doesn't have, like, say he doesn't have a gym, that's okay. Just something as simple as a daily walk. Maybe the two of you go out and walk together. Or if you need alone time, that's fine too. Encourage him to go play a sport, or you can even just lift weights in the basement. Whatever works is great. It's all going to spike his mood and his energy. And you can also make subtle changes to his diet. Or if he's the chef, that's great too. But foods like eggs, lean meats, avocados, and nuts are really the best for hormone health. And if he's kind of burning the candle at both ends, remind him to get a good night's sleep. Sleep is when testosterone is replenished. So none of those late night Netflix marathons or gaming, that's really not going to help him at all. Those will need to take the back seat. Then managing stress. How can you help a man manage stress? So stress is a absolute testosterone killer. If your man has been dealing with work stress or other pressures, help him find ways to decompress. So this could be as simple as encouraging a hobby, suggesting a weekend getaway for the two of you, or even just sitting down to talk about what's on his mind. Men don't always like to talk, but um you can offer it and say, "Hey, I'm here to listen." Or maybe it's just not even about talking. Maybe you're just sitting on the couch together, snuggling if you guys are physical touch people. Find out what his love languages are and just see if you can kind of put him at ease. And really, the other thing, sometimes it's just as simple as giving him some space to relax and unwind. I know one of the biggest things I'll say for me in my dating world is if I've spent a little too much time with a gentleman, I like to kind of give him that space to chase again or to rejuvenate his own testosterone because if he's been around me a bit too much, I've got a lot of that female estrogen surging and sometimes just a little time to really think for them and recharge their testosterone is good. So maybe it's as simple as him taking some time to tinker in the garage or go on a solo drive or listen to some music or even just watch a game in peace. So let him know that you are on his team and you support his need to recharge. And then I would say the last bit would be that patience and encouragement. So they thrive on positive feedback. They're actually simpler than we think. So if your guy is feeling down or less confident, a little encouragement really goes a long way. Saying things like, "Oh, you've been working so hard and I'm really proud of you." Or "You're such a great dad. You're such a great partner. You make me feel so appreciated and motivated." When they do the little task that you're really wanting, and I'll say men um, don't always realize how it's those simple tasks for us that really make us feel good. So the more you can encourage him for those simple tasks, the more that he'll do them. The episode 14 video that I did, I mentioned that to men. It's like, hey, for your lady in your life, it is those simple things that really make all the difference in the world for us. And so they're very similar to that. It's just a simple thank you, a simple appreciation, and acknowledgement goes so far. So a little pro tip to think about. I want us to all think of this as a team effort. And I haven't been fortunate enough yet to meet my Mr. Right. I know he's out there. So I think the hormones for me surging on a monthly basis are a lot easier to manage when it's just me without kids, without a husband around. Um, but for you that has the joy of having a man in your life, think of it as a team effort and tell them that too. It's just like we have our hormonal ups and downs. Men go through phases too. But when we can encourage healthy habits for each other and supporting each other in a small, thoughtful way or in small, thoughtful ways, we can really, really help the men in our lives. And the more, the men in our lives are happy too, it just really benefits everyone. Everyone is happier, including you, including us all around. So I would say that's a wrap, my lovely ladies. Here we go, though. Remember, your cycle is your superpower, and understanding hormones, both yours and his, is a game changer for life and love. So if you found this podcast helpful, or this episode specifically, hit subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it, whether it's a son, maybe it's a younger daughter, friend. Let's keep this conversation going. And until next time, I'm Elle, and this is Off Limits. Sending you so much love, and I can't wait for our next time together.